I'm Katie Hewison and I'm an elite triathlete. I compete for GB in the World Series and started the sport in 2009. Previously I was a mountain runner at elite level. Yeah, so I realised I first had a talent at endurance sport at school. Um, Basically, well, I started out as a swimmer, went to swim club, and that was by age 9, and wasn't the best at all, just kind of enjoyed it and had good friends there and competed at a local level. And then when I went to high school, I went and won a cross-country race by miles, and I'd done no running training, so I was like, oh, I could be good at this. Joined a running club, and I think the thing that kind of kept me interested as a junior was the fact that I entered a lot of races that were at a level where I could see success. So I kind of went to, I wasn't a national runner by any standard in cross-country and track, but I went to local cross-countries and I won them, and I think that really fed my kind of appetite for more. And then I went into the fell running because I went and raced in an English fell running championship and won that title in the first year. And each year then I progressed as an international fell runner, a mountain runner, and right up until like 22, 23 when I was competing for Great Britain in World Championships and had my best place in a 6th. And then I obviously was at a really high level. My running times were really good on the road at 10Ks and 5Ks, and I was giving a lot of time to the sport, and I didn't get any funding because mountain running is not an Olympic event. And although I loved what I did, I was kind of at the point where I thought I've got a lot of talent and I'd love to see how far I could actually go with it. And there was a talent transfer programme that was kind of up and about 3 years prior to the Olympics, to switch very good 10K runners of sub 34 who'd swam as a junior or had some sort of swim background into the sport of triathlon. So I just kind of applied for it, not really thinking I was going to get in. I'd always thought triathlon would be really suited to me, but there was never really any opportunities for me to do it where I lived. There was no triathlon clubs, and I think it was a bit daunting never riding a road bike and those kind of things. So I went for the programme, I got accepted, and then that brought me into the sport of triathlon. And I think the thing that's kind of kept me at it the whole time is the fact that I want to be successful. I thrive on competition. I hate to say it, but I'm a bit of a selfish person. I think athletes have to be, and I like being the centre of attention, I like winning, and I like that's what motivates me on a daily basis, to be the best I can be, and yeah, that's probably why I'm in the sport now and trying to compete at the highest level there is to offer now in triathlon and the Olympics. Yeah, it knocked me massively at the start. I think when I went to triathlon, I didn't expect it to be as difficult as it was. I think I assumed I could swim when I was a kid, that'd be easy to pick up. I was very lucky in that I did adapt to the bike really quickly. I think the strength that I gained from my mountain running gave me really good leg strength for cycling, and it's actually one of my best disciplines now in the 3. So that bit was okay, and obviously the running was fine. But putting all 3 together, I think my confidence at the start was like, I am never going to be good enough at this, and I questioned myself on a daily basis, what am I doing? I'd given up my job, I'd given up my house, I'd moved to live away from my husband, away from my family and friends. I wasn't accepted on the programme by all the other athletes. So there were a lot of external factors that was really adding to me questioning, why am I here, what am I doing? And then I got injured, and it wasn't just kind of a little 2-week injury, it prolonged itself for about 18 months. I was constantly training in pain. It went from my foot, so it's stopping me running, then into my back, so I had pain cycling, and then I had shoulder impingements, so I had problems swimming. So all the additional stresses that I was having, it eventually got on top of me, and I was like, enough's enough. I found out eventually that the pain I'd had in my foot for about 12 months had gone into a tear, and the tear in my plantar fascia was like the final straw. I thought, this is it. Somebody's telling me this isn't meant for me. I'll go back to what I used to do and back in my comfort zone, and back to my running and back to my house, and I'll be just as good at that. So I left there and I went and lived with my husband, and I kept my biking and my running going and kind of built myself slowly up again, and I joined a local swimming club because the swimming's always been the bit that I struggled with. And yeah, it was weird. I started to realise that, I do enjoy this. And I think because I was back at a lower level, I was swimming with a group of masters who there was no pressure on me. It was all, just turn up when you want, and you know, just do what you want to do. And I think that really started my confidence, giving me my confidence back that I needed. And then I went into a race that year in 2011, the World Duathlon Championships. So there was no swim involved, it was just basically bike and run. And I went into it just elated to be on the start line because I'd missed the whole season through injury. I'd obviously left Loughborough and took myself off funding, so it was a bit of a tough time. And then I went and won the world title. So it was like, oh, I am actually good at this. So that was like another confidence boost, and that really gave me the bug back that I needed and gave me the belief back in myself. So then I started the triathlon again, and I did it kind of my own way through my own setup in Aldershot where my husband was. And then, yeah, got some good results in 2012, won a World Cup, won the British Super Series in triathlon. And then I realised the next step, if I want to look at Commonwealth Games and the higher aspirations that I originally transferred to the sport for, it wasn't going to be good enough where I was. So then I joined an international squad with one of the world's best triathlon coaches, and that's where I am now. Yeah, so mental toughness, I guess it's quite a broad category in our sport. It's something you can't do if you're not tough, I think. You know, the nature of especially elite level, is you can't have a weakness. You've got to be the world's best at swim, bike and run. So that means I'm on a swimmers programme of 30k a week. I mean, I'm on a bike programme of 10 hours a week, and I'm running about 7 hours a week. So in total I'm training 25 to 30 hours a week, and that in itself is tough, you know, mentally, to get yourself up and to get out training every single day, 5 hours a day some days. Yeah, you've got to, I think, have that. For me, what gets me through it, I think, is having that goal at the end of it and having that purpose as to why I'm doing it. So I do have to remind myself. So actually in my swim bag I have a little piece of paper that when I open it, it says Commonwealth Games, because that's what I'm aiming for. So I do have little reminders, because sometimes you can just think, oh, I'm not going to go today, and you know you've got to, because your competitors are doing it, and that's another thing I guess that drives me. I want to be the best, and I know my competitors are doing it, so that'll get me out the door. Yeah, so the open water swimming is a totally different ball game to swimming in a pool. You have a nice straight line, clear water, you've got space around you, and that's how 90% of our training is done in a pool. And I'd say, yeah, switching that into the open water, yes, you need to be a competent swimmer, but you also need to be able to deal with contact from swimmers around you. You need to be able to deal with the fact that it's freezing cold, that you can't see anything when you put your head in. And the first ever open water swim, I don't think I was prepared for any of this. The coaches obviously didn't do a very good job in preparing me, because I got in and then I had to get dragged out by a canoe because I had a panic attack. So since that, I've obviously come a long way. I'm now competing in World Series level, and dealing with all those things is still something I'm working on. So, for example, when I get to the boys, usually I'm in the big pack of all the women, and I'm getting hit from the side of the head. I actually chipped my tooth at a race this year. And at another race I was vertical upright screaming because I thought I was going to drown, because the girls literally pushing your head down and pulling on your legs, and it's quite scary and quite daunting. But we've been working hard on strategies to help me with that. So I now have like a checklist. So from the minute I get on the pontoon to waiting to dive in, I go through like a series of mental kind of things to think about. So the first thing is, when I'm stood there, all I'm thinking about is the first bit of, say, the 100 metres of my race. So that'll be dive, streamline, kick, when I break the surface, 8 hard strokes, then I breathe. And this is just all relevant to me and how I get a good start. But it just helps keep me quite calm, because I've got specific things to think about. And then I focus on my own line, so I don't start looking at where everybody else is and what everyone else is doing. I just keep my head down and I think about swimming specific things. So for me, it's getting my hips moving, it's breathing without looking behind me. So again, I have a couple of little mental checkpoints to help me with that. And then if I've done all that right, then usually I'm not in the big fight, but sometimes that doesn't always go to plan, and I've not swum as well as I'd have liked, and I'm in the fight. So then if that happens, I have to really think about calm. I take big deep breaths. If someone's pulling my legs, I kind of think that's a good thing now, because that means I'm not at the back. So it's just having, I think, the mental checkpoints to really think about when you're in that situation, and that's what's really helped me. And London was my best swim yet, and I had all those things kind of ready, and I'd be reading over them before I raced, and just really kind of drilled it into my head that this is what's going to happen. I'm prepared for it, and I know how to deal with it now. Yeah. Again, I think it all comes down to practice. The more you do something, the better you are at it. And with transition, at the start, I wasn't great at it. I did a race and I ran out of transition, didn't put my helmet on. So you can get there, and I know exactly how it feels. You're like, oh, quick, I've got to get up to that park and I've got to get there as fast as I can. And you kind of lose all sense of normality and what you should be thinking about. So the best thing to do is actually be a little bit slower. So rather than sprinting and going as quick as you can and losing focus, I actually don't run quite as quick as maybe I could do, because it helps me gather my thoughts. So I have a total routine that I go through, and the first bit, if it's a wetsuit swim, will be as soon as I get out, I get the zip off and unzip my wetsuit, and then I get the suit off and I get it down to my hips, and I don't take my cap and goggles off my face, even keep the goggles on my eyes, because if you take them off then you've only got one hand to do the wetsuit. So once the wetsuit's down to my hips, I take the cap and goggles off, they're in my hand, I'm running to my bike, and I'll know exactly where my bike is because I'll have sighted that when I put it in, so I'll have a checkpoint. Sometimes there's like 50 bikes all looking the same, so I'll maybe something in the stand that will stand out to me, I'll be aiming for that rather than looking for my bike. So when I got there, cap and goggles straight in the box, I'll pull down the wetsuit, which takes practice because they can get stuck, so it is a bit of a at the hips, straight down, stamp it off, and whilst I'm stamping it off, the helmet's going on, pick it up in the box, and off I go. So it's just a routine that I've perfected through practice and training, and it's like second nature now, so I don't tend to get flustered. Unless, I don't know, it might be different when the day comes and I'm actually in the front pack and I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm here and I have to make this. But I think it's all comes to the same things. You've got to have your checkpoints and keep calm and just remind yourself of them. I think you can see it. I mean, I think I'm becoming more confident. So this year was my first year in the World Series level, and you watch it on television on the BBC and you think, oh my God, wow, these athletes are amazing, they're a totally different league. And when I got there and I was like checking into the athletes lounge and doing all the things that you watch people doing, I was a bit daunted, and it was all like, you could see it in my body language. I was all, oh, well, what are they doing? I'm watching what everybody else is doing rather than going through my own routines. Whereas you look at me now in London, I know exactly what time I need to get in the swim to do my warm-up. I know exactly what time I need to check in. My body language is much more relaxed. I'm not shaking like a leaf before I'm starting, and I think that a lot of that is to do with feeling like you belong at the races. So you need to have good results to kind of prove that to yourself, and you need to have done some good training, because I think the good training gives you that confidence that, well, yeah, I've done that in training, so I can do that there. There's no difference. And experience, I think the more you do something, the better you are at it. And that's my confidence has definitely grown through the season. And I think when you get a win under your belt, that helps you even more with the confidence. And you see the top girls, that they're consistently good at the top because they've got that confidence. And I think it does make a big difference. Do you know, I was wondering if that was going to come up. It's not been mentioned for a while. Totally different, because Deal or No Deal is like a game of chance and luck, and I was there purely as a lucky person that got an opportunity to go on a game show, and it is luck of the draw. What box you pick has got no relevance to anything I've done in my life. Whereas triathlon, it's totally self-induced pressure. I'm doing this because I want to do it for me, and I work bloody hard for it, and when I get to that race, it's like, this is a reflection of what I've done, so I put pressure on myself. Whereas I opened them boxes, and it was a bit nerve-wracking, but it wasn't because I hadn't picked the right box, it was just more, is it going to be right or is it not? So, totally different. Two different types of pressure, yeah.